All right, so are you ready to jump into the future? Because we got a ton of sources all about the future of human evolution. Articles, YouTube videos, academic papers, the whole shebang.
Mhm.
And they're all trying to figure out, where humanity's headed in the next few decades, even millions of years out.
It's really wild, right? The predictions are all over the place. Some are hyper-focused on 2030, some are looking at 2050, and then there's this one that jumps a million years into the future.
Yeah, a million years. That's crazy. But you know what we're going to do? We're not just going to read predictions. We're going to dig deep into what these changes might actually mean for you.
Hmm.
Have you ever thought about robots taking your job?
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the YouTube videos we got claims that by 2050, almost half of all jobs could be gone because of automation. And it's not just factory jobs or anything, it's the white collar jobs too.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that because one of the sources actually specifically said that AI is going to be taking over roles in things like accounting and market research, even HR.
Wait, so you're saying algorithms are going to be sifting through resumes and doing interviews?
And giving performance reviews?
Oh man.
Uh,
Getting feedback from a robot, that's a little creepy, don't you think?
mm,
But do these sources really think we're all just going to be out of work?
Not really, no. A lot of them talk about how robots and AI are more about you know, augmenting human capabilities. They're not
Mhm.
going to replace us entirely.
So more like working together.
Exactly. It's like working smarter, not harder.
Okay, I can get behind that. So
Yeah.
so what kinds of jobs are we talking about here? The ones that need uniquely human skills.
Well, a lot of the sources mention things like creativity and problem solving, things like emotional intelligence. Basically, the stuff AI can't quite grasp yet. There's this one article that even predicts a huge demand for jobs that don't even exist yet.
Whoa,
Oh.
okay. That's a bit freaky. But also kind of exciting, you know? Sound like we need to be ready to adapt and learn new skills.
Oh, absolutely. And some sources even give specific examples of jobs AI will probably take over in the next 10 years or so. Think security guards, fast food cooks, waiters, warehouse workers, delivery drivers, even some office jobs, too.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. Okay, but let's move on to something even more mind-blowing, all right? Have you ever heard of brain-computer interfaces?
Oh, yeah.
Because apparently by 2030, we might all be way smarter thanks to them.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the sources actually said that they don't have to be those creepy implanted chips. They said the non-invasive tech is supposed to be super advanced by then. Imagine connecting your brain to the internet and just instantly absorbing information.
Okay, now that's something I can get behind. That sounds awesome. But hold on a sec. Are there any downsides to this?
Yeah. Well, just like with anything this powerful, there are some ethical concerns. A few sources mention worries about access and equity. Like, will everyone be able to, you know, benefit from these brain boosting things equally? Or will it just create a digital divide where only some people can afford to upgrade their minds?
Oh man. That is a good point. It's like a science fiction movie coming true, but not in a good way,
Yeah.
necessarily. It seems like every step forward brings, new problems and questions.
Totally. And that's what makes it so fascinating, right? I mean, we're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but we also have to consider the consequences of our actions.
Right, right. Okay, let's switch gears a bit here. Let's talk about climate
Yeah.
change and how it might be affecting human evolution. One YouTube video we saw talked about this crazy idea. They called it Graham, I think. And it's supposed to be this human figure designed to, survive the worst effects of climate change.
Oh, yeah, Graham. Yeah, it's pretty striking visually. He's got thick skin, reinforced ribs, and multi-directional joints, I think.
Wait, so he's basically like a human tank.
Pretty much. He was actually created by a team of experts to demonstrate how our bodies might adapt to survive in a world, ravaged by climate change.
That's both terrifying and super interesting. Do the sources really think our bodies could change that much?
Well, Graham is definitely an extreme example, but it does show how people living in really harsh environments might evolve certain, advantages over time. For example, some sources suggest that smaller humans might actually be better in a hotter climate because they'd be able to regulate their body temperature better.
So we probably won't all turn into Graham, but it is possible that climate change could, significantly change how we look and function.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good reminder that evolution is still happening, even with all our fancy technology.
Right. Crazy. Okay, so we've got robots, brain-computer interfaces, and climate change possibly making us look
Mm.
different. What else is in store for us, according to these sources?
Well, they also talk about something called transhumanism, and that's where things get really wild. So
Yeah.
transhumanism is this idea that we can use technology to totally break through our limitations as humans, even mortality.
Well, okay, so it's about more than just living longer. What kind of tech are we even talking about here?
Well, the sources mention things like genetic editing, using CRISPR and stuff, nanochips, even the possibility of incorporating animal genes into
Wait,
humans.
are you serious? Like, imagine having the strength of a gorilla, or like the night vision of an owl.
Yeah, exactly.
That's I mean, that's incredible, but also kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
What kind of like ethical problems do the sources talk about with this?
Well, one article talked about the whole designer babies debate, where parents can choose their kids' traits and their worries about making social inequality even worse if only some people can get these enhancements. And then there's this even bigger question about what it means to be human in a future where we're all technologically enhanced.
Yeah, that's a heavy one. It's like we're almost playing God, but without the instruction manual.
Right. It's both exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Totally.
One source put it like this: what kind of future do we actually want? Like, do we just embrace all these enhancements and risk creating, a society of superhumans and then just regular humans? Or do we say no to some things, even if it means limiting what we can do?
No, I mean those are some tough questions. No easy answers there.
Yep.
And it sounds like we need to be thinking about them now because, I mean, this technology is getting closer and closer all the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, you ready for the grand finale of our human evolution deep dive?
It me.
Let's fast forward
Yeah.
a million years into the future.
All right, let's do it.
One YouTube video took us on this wild ride through all the possibilities. And it said that humans could evolve to be like incredibly tall with small heads.
Yeah.
Like because our brains will be so efficient they won't need as much space.
Like, imagine a future where people have these tiny little heads and huge eyes, almost like aliens or something, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's wild. But it also makes you realize that evolution, it's not always predictable.
Yeah.
There could be like sudden changes and then periods where things stay the same. And then there's always the chance of like something totally unexpected
Yeah,
happening.
like an asteroid, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like a pandemic or some crazy technological breakthrough that changes everything.
Totally.
So a million years from now, we could be completely unrecognizable.
Mm.
Or we might look pretty similar to how we do now.
It's a mystery, right? I mean, only time will tell. And the sources really stress that the future of human evolution, it's not set in stone. It's like a story that's still being written.
Okay, I like that. But, before we get too lost thinking about a million years from now, let's come back to the present a little bit. One of the articles we read had this really interesting idea about humans becoming a domesticated species.
What'd you think about that? Oh, yeah, that was really thought-provoking. The article compared the domestication of animals, like how wolves became dogs,
Right.
to how humans have changed as we've built these artificial environments for ourselves.
So instead of adapting to nature, we've adapted to cities and tech and agriculture. It's like we've domesticated ourselves.
Exactly. And, how domesticated animals often look and act differently than their wild ancestors.
Right.
The article suggests that humans might be evolving in ways that, reflect our domesticated lifestyle.
Like, I mean, we're definitely not as strong as our, like, hunter-gatherer ancestors.
Yeah, and you think about it, I mean, our brains are really good at adapting, but
Yeah.
maybe we're losing some of our wildness or something as we become more dependent on technology.
That's a really interesting point. So it sounds like our future evolution might be less about, like, purely biological changes and more about, like, cultural and technological adaptations.
It's a really fascinating parallel to think about.
It's kind of like we're on this treadmill of, like, constantly upgrading. But one of the sources talked about how all this technology, especially smartphones and the internet, it's, like, actually changing our brains, like rewiring our neural pathways and stuff.
Oh, totally. It affects our attention spans, our memory. Think about it. When was the last time you actually memorized a phone number?
Oh my gosh, you're right. I can't even remember. Is that like a symptom of my domesticated brain?
Maybe. But the thing is, our brains are super adaptable. So while tech might be changing us in some ways, it also gives us all these new tools and abilities. Who knows what kind of cool cognitive stuff we'll be able to do down the road.
True, true. It's kind of like a trade-off, I guess. Okay, so
Right.
zooming out for a sec. This whole deep dive has really blown my mind. Cyborgs, space colonists, digital immortality, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's so much to think about. But remember, the future isn't just one thing, There are so many possibilities, and it all depends on what we decide to do.
You're right. So maybe instead of just trying to predict the future, we should be like focusing on creating this future we want.
Exactly. Like, what kind of world do we want to leave for the next generation, or even the generations after that?
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah,
It means we have to be careful about how we use technology and make choices that are good for everyone.
definitely. It's not just about us, right? It's about all of humanity, maybe even post-humans.
Whoa, okay. Post-humans. That's a whole other deep dive. But for now, I think it's time to wrap things up. This has been a wild ride through the future of human evolution.
It really has. We've talked about some crazy stuff. Hopefully, it's made you think about the future in new ways.
To all our listeners out there, thanks for coming along with us. And you know what? Keep digging into the stuff you sent us. Keep asking questions and imagining what's possible, because the future is still being written, and you're a part of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, this deep dive is officially over.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep evolving.